Welcome to Pre-Health Shadowing. This is an online student networking opportunity where we can connect you with not only like-minded students, but established healthcare professionals in various domains and specialties to guide you on your healthcare journey through this global pandemic. Since we are open to anyone who is interested and has access to our website for absolutely no cost, we are getting people from not only all over the US, but all over the world. So go ahead and drop in the chat where you guys are Zooming from today. Welcome everyone, awesome. Couple housekeeping things before we begin. We do send out weekly emails with all of the speakers as well as some awesome key information. And so if you are not receiving emails, here is how to fix that. You're gonna go to our website, prehealthshadowing.com/join-us, and you're gonna go ahead, put in your email, put in your name. After that, you're gonna want to go to your email and mark pre-health shadowing as important. Another thing you can do is save pre-health shadowing as a contact. And by doing this, every time you get an email from us, it'll go directly to your inbox and skip the junk, skip the spam, skip the promotions folder. If you guys have any questions about this, feel free to email us at info@prehealthshadowing.com. I also have another update for you all. We now have closed captioning to accommodate for all of our live sessions to accommodate students with hearing disability. For all of my students, if you guys are interested in getting published, this looks really good on resumes, CVs, applications. We are taking submissions. You can write an article, a reflection about a specific shadowing session, a review of a shadowing session, or a program, as well as any success stories. And so by submitting these, you have the opportunity to get published on the official Pre-Health Shadowing website. We are quickly growing and have only been active for about 4 months. In those 4 months, we are about to hit 15,000 students. And so thank you guys all for being a part of our journey. And we'd love to hear about how Pre-Health Shadowing is impacting your life. If you guys are interested in submitting a blog submission, you're gonna go to this website at the bottom, and please either write this down in your notebook or take a picture of it because it's actually not accessible from the home page. So it's prehealthshadowing.com/blog submissions. Don't forget the hyphen in there. I'll give you a couple more seconds to write it down if you need it. All right, we're gonna move on. I would invite everybody to pull out their phone and go ahead and scan this screen. This is going to take you to the Pre-Health Shadowing donate page. So Pre-Health Shadowing is a student-led nonprofit organization, and that's currently running off of the support of the community. And so we're really hoping that the students that are benefiting from this program will help keep this program alive. And so we humbly ask you to pull out your phone, share this link, donate a couple bucks if you can. It really goes far. We are maxing out today at 300 students when we had over 1,000 students registered for today's session. So unfortunately, the other 2/3 aren't going to make it in today, but until we have enough money to upgrade all of our platforms and our website, we are unable to accommodate the large load. If you are a high schooler and interested in joining the Pre-Health Shadowing team, we have a new program for high schoolers called HTP. This will give them the opportunity to establish connections with other high schoolers across the US, as well as develop Pre-Health Shadowing clubs in various high schools. So if you're interested in applying for this, you can apply to do this by going to our website, www.prehealthshadowing.com/join our team, and then just indicate that you are interested in applying for the HTP program. We do actually have a mentorship opportunity for you all, so listen up. This is a mentorship networking weekend, and it will take place on the weekend of February 19th to 21. You have the opportunity to meet with up to 2 established professionals per day, with a total of 6 professionals for all 3 days of the event. You can potentially gain a virtual mentor for life. So if you're interested, this is by invite only. So this is how you get an invitation to our mentorship networking weekend. we have a social media bingo board fundraiser currently happening. Students who are able to fill up their entire bingo board by the end of January will secure their spot in our mentorship networking event. It's that easy. You can download the materials on our website by going to www.prehealthshadowing.com/mentorshipbingo1. I will go ahead and put this in the chat at some point. So if you're interested, that is how you find all of the information. If you're joining us for our live session today, be sure to post us on your social media and don't forget to tag @PreHealthShadowing. We'd love to see your setup for today. So go ahead and post how you're taking notes, your desk setup, wherever you may be. Tag @PreHealthShadowing for the opportunity to get reposted. Students can take a post-shadowing assessment to receive a certificate verifying their hours in this virtual shadowing session today. So take good notes and ask our speakers some great questions. This is your chance. Along the way, feel free to drop any questions or comments in the chat throughout the session, and a member of our student team will be sure to ask them during the Q&A portion. Without further ado, I would like to welcome to you our guest professional for today, Dr. Jeremy Grossman. Welcome.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Thanks for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here. A little bit different than my normal scene of living at the hospital, especially during this kind of crazy time in the world. It's amazing to see how many people are here today. I did not expect this. So I'm really glad to see that people are still interested in going into the healthcare field with everything that's going on. I guess I'll just start out by saying a little bit about myself. And then, I'll answer questions. I guess I prepared some kind of poll questions that I thought were kind of interesting topics that I wasn't aware of as a pre-health student and as a pre-med student. And then, open the floor up. Again, I'm not the boss. It looks like Nina and the group here are the bosses. So they'll tell me kind of where the meeting's going, and we'll take it from there. So again, my name is Jeremy Grossman. I'm from California. Originally, I grew up in a place called Aliso Viejo in Southern California. I attended the University of California in Irvine. There, I got a biology degree, a BS, and a BA in psychology. From there, I took some time off. I did some tutoring, made a little bit of money for myself. And soon after that, I was applying for medical school. So I applied for MD schools in the US. I applied for DO schools in the US. And I applied for Caribbean and international schools as well. And the plan was to take another year off and do, make some more cash to save up for school. But ultimately, I heard back from one university in Israel called the Sackler School of Medicine, which is a joint kind of commissioned medical school by the state of New York that trains all of the physicians that go there in Israel. And then they bring us all back to New York to do our residency training. So it's kind of a weird niche program. But I ended up working out here in New York now at Stony Brook Hospital. I'm doing a residency. So it's kind of weird. It's a combined residency in internal medicine and pediatrics. So normally both of those fields are 3 years of medicine and then 3 years of pediatrics. But both the American Board of Pediatrics and the American Board of Internal Medicine were able to work out a system where you could do it all in 4 years. So it basically shaves off 2 years. I originally wanted to do family medicine. I don't know if some of you out there might be thinking of family medicine. That's kind of more of an outpatient career option. Now, there is definitely some inpatient work you can do from there and even some fellowships, but Med-Peds, short for internal medicine pediatrics, is more of an inpatient training program. And I was able to open up more opportunities for myself in the future by going through that and get a better inpatient training. Through medical school, I found out that I really enjoyed doing inpatient work instead. And that's why I ultimately decided to do Med-Peds. But During the process, I applied to both family medicine and med peds. So now I'm here in my second year. Intern year is terrible. Grey's Anatomy doesn't describe it as it is. It's really rough, but it's very doable. It's very doable, but it was very stressful for me. Everyone takes it in their own way, but second year is a lot better now as a senior resident. Knowing things and being more comfortable where you're at makes a big difference. So with that being said, that's kind of my work life. I live on Long Island. I've got a 7-year-old American Bulldog named Zeus. My family's all out in California. Luckily, I've made some really good friends out here. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. My life is really medicine right now, but I'm okay with that. And all of you who, if you're planning on going to medicine or health, I'm not sure where all of your demographics are, but be prepared for it to be a huge part of your life, because whether you like it or not, medicine, you're really choosing a lifestyle. You can really have a lifestyle outside of medicine, but just know that it's going to be a very large aspect of your lifestyle.
Great segue into our first polling question. So go ahead, students, and give it a go. All right, I'll leave it open for a few more seconds. Be sure to get your response in there if you haven't done so yet. Alrighty, I'm gonna go ahead and share the results. Pretty split.
Wow, it's pretty split. I thought that was a pretty, that was a gimme question, I thought. Kind of cheesy. Yeah, so you can totally go out and have fun. You just have to really manage your time. There's so many like buzzwords and buzz terms and sentences that people are using in like pre-medical field in college. And you can really have a life outside of medicine. I was lucky to be in a social group in college. I was participating in sports. I was going to the gym. I was dating. I was having a fun time. I even had a dog throughout medical school as well, and lived the life. It's totally doable. It's really just all about time management. And I cannot stress enough. It sounds like there's just like a buzzword that people use, but you really just need to manage your time. So every week or every 2-3 weeks, I would set out and say, okay, this is what I want to get accomplished in the next 3 weeks. And I want to get this accomplished by Tuesday, this accomplished by Wednesday. And I would break down every week, every day, every hour to say, this is what I'm going to do. So that when I got off at 7 p.m. and I was going to go out and get a beer with my friends, or I was going to go bowling, or whatever it is that you enjoy doing, I felt comfortable doing that. So it sounds like most of you are in college. So maybe some of you now, like halfway, at least through your first year, kind of understand how college courses work and how they take a little bit more time than high school classes. You kind of have like an idea of how much time you need to be putting into things. And you should have some idea of saying, okay, this material, like I was in my first day of class, this is like a lot of information. Like, I don't know how I'm going to be processing this. I'm going to be needing a lot more time to allocate to this class. To make sure that I get a good grade. To give you guys kind of a comparison, my first 2 years, I got a little bit too social and was enjoying kind of the college lifestyle. And I don't regret it at all, but my grades did take a little bit of a hit because of that, because I was going out and having some fun and I kind of wanted that college experience. But obviously it turned out okay. I was able to go to a medical school, an international medical school, or rather a US international combined medical school. And it worked out for me. But those latter years of college, I was working a lot harder to get my grades up. And for those of you that are doing that now or trying to get your grades up, it's a lot harder to bring a GPA up than it is to bring it down. So once you're low like that, once your GPA is already on the lower side, it can be really difficult to bring it up. And especially when medical schools are looking for science GPA, that's even harder to bring that up. So you kind of have to figure out how you're going to go about that. And you have to make a plan. You need to find mentors, and not even professional mentors, people who are a year or two above you that you might know that are going into the medical field, because they're like right next to the action of what you're going to be needing to do to get to where you want to go next. They're right there. So I would even say sometimes they can give you better advice than professional college like health career advisors. I had so many advisors tell me that it wasn't going to work out, and I was going home to my parents all the time and saying, they're telling me I can't do this, I don't think I can do this, it's nearly impossible. But luckily I had a good family that supported me and said, no, you're going to do this, you can do this, keep fighting through, and you'll work through it. And it did work out for me, and it can definitely work out for you too. So I don't want to say everything that these health career people are saying is you should just kind of shove away and say it's not true, but take it with a grain of salt, because the medical field is very interesting in that there's not a cookie cutter medical student that gets in every year. There's really kind of a wide diversity of students that get in. Any other questions, Nina, that popped up in the chat, or that people specifically want to answer? I could ramble on for hours, but I don't want to do that.
So actually we have a bunch of questions, and I kind of want to make this a little bit more personal. So I'm going to invite the students to just raise your hand. There's a little reaction button at the bottom, and we will call on you, and you can actually ask your question yourself.
Yes, Catherine, go ahead.
So I saw on the bio, or in your bio, that you wanted to help serve underserved communities, but in wanting to do that myself, I realized that means a lot of different things to different people. So what does that mean to you specifically, helping serve like the underserved communities?
That's a really good question, and you're 100% right. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. If you want to travel abroad, I know that there's a lot of options to do that and a lot of programs to sign up for. I didn't personally do that. Like going abroad to underserved countries or underserved communities, even in the country, is definitely a possibility. But I'm kind of more favorable to staying local, because I think really wherever you are in the world, there's people there that need your help. And especially as students, you guys have enough on your plate, and you're doing way too much already. You have enough stress. You don't need to travel across the world to help somebody if you can find somebody local that you can help. So for me, I was kind of raised with the value that if you saw a homeless person on the street or someone struggling, you would, give them some cash, or better yet, like go into the grocery store and buy them a sandwich or buy them a drink, something like that. So that was my own personal story that kind of led me to this project that I did in medical school called the Homeless Project, Tel Aviv, which is where I was in Israel. And it's funny. I think in the medical field, it's so established. We all just kind of want to jump into organizations that are kind of already there. I did that for like pre-health shadowing when doing that in person was more of an option during coronavirus. And actually, at the hospital that I did it at, it was a terrible experience, because what I really became was I was just kind of a towel boy. And I found myself just bringing towels to the patient rooms, and I wasn't getting the experience that I wanted. So that kind of led me to say, okay, I want to do this for homeless people. I want to help out the homeless people that I'm walking by every day. I also need something for my resume, but I also at the same time want to make an impact. Like I'm a medical student now, or a pre-med student. Why am I waiting to become a doctor to do this? Why does it need to happen in 5-10 years from now? Why can't I do this now? Like I have to do this volunteer activity for my resume, right? But why can't I get something out of it myself? So I got some medical students together. I said, hey, listen, I want to do something for the homeless people that we all walk by every day. And the idea we all came to together was we were going to meet up in the morning, make sandwiches, get some water, super cheap, and just walk around the city. And when we run into somebody, give them one. They're super thankful. They get something out of it. And at the same time, we also can talk to them too, to kind of learn about their story. And maybe that story and that kind of, that interaction can guide our future patient care. So not only is this person getting a meal, getting some interaction, which maybe they felt isolated in the first place. A lot of these homeless people are isolated and they don't get much social interaction. And the social interaction they get isn't what they want. So that was kind of important to me in establishing this project with a group of peers of mine, to kind of benefit everybody and not to make this kind of forced interaction that was really just for a resume. I wanted to make it more of that. And I think medical schools, residencies, colleges, if some of you are in high school, they appreciate that. When you go out of your way and you institute something on your own, that's huge. And it's totally possible. It's really possible. It does not take that much of your time or effort to create this little thing. I was making sandwiches, grabbing water, going out, helping these people. I was going out one day a month. I was a medical student. I found time to just go out and do this. So the reason I'm putting so much stress on making your own project is because I think some of these pre-formed organizations might not have all of your values and goals and ambitions and reasons to do that specific thing that organization is doing. Better yet, you can make something of your own and try to help something and the people that you see in your everyday life, right there and then, and you can see the impact yourself. It looks like a polling question came up. Should I only do pre-health volunteering with large volunteering organizations? Okay, perfect, yeah. So there you go. I really think you don't need to, and I'll kind of jump off of that topic and say, if you do need like shadowing hours, instead of doing like these like hospital volunteer programs, which is really what I have experience with, or group volunteer programs. This is a whole nother story. The pre-health shadowing page is a whole nother story. I'm really talking about like these pre-formed kind of like free work labor type of things, which is, I really don't support and have had a bad personal experience with. You really should be able to reach out and create these opportunities on your own. So what I did was I went online and said, okay, I was interested in family medicine because I really didn't know what I wanted. I said, family medical practitioner nearby. They popped up. Go on their page, healthgrades.com, vitals.com. Their phone number pops up, their email pops up. Send them an email. Say, hey, I'm a health student. I'm super interested in this field. I would love to learn a little bit more. If you could spare a few hours, I would love and appreciate it if I could learn from you. And the truth is, every single doctor had to go somewhere and learn. So this is ingrained in us as doctors that you teach others, right? It's not just a field where you become a doctor and you make money and you're doing it for yourself. I mean, the whole idea of medicine and the institution of medicine is about teaching. So you can go out and email these doctors locally and get involved. I was interested in DO and MD, so that opened up the opportunities more to me. And I shadowed with a DO for a while, and I shadowed with an MD for a while, and I loved both of the experiences, and I applied to both fields. All right, another polling question.
Here are the results.
Yeah, so is it recommended that I volunteer with the type of doctor that I'm considering becoming? The answer is an astounding yes. If you are interested in urology, I have no interest in urology, and you want to do urological surgery, you should do that. Don't waste your time doing obstetric and gynecology if you have no interest in that. Don't shadow a neurologist just because he was the only one that answered. Don't waste your time. Life is short. There's more to life than just getting into medical school or getting into residency or getting into college. You need to get something out of what you're doing. So that being said, you should, again, look up exactly who what type of field you want to go into. Look on Google, on Bing, whatever browser you use, and just look locally. It's so easy to do that. And I wish that was passed on more to me when I was younger, because I figured that out on my own because I was kind of desperate for some real shadowing opportunities, and I learned so much. I like the doctors that I shadowed with at that time really brought me into their brains and in their minds, and I wasn't shadowing them. I was really like living in their heads and kind of seeing how the doctor life really worked, going from the room back to the office, looking online at the dosages and the prescriptions and the laboratory findings, and going through the whole thing. And through that, you might find out that you don't want to be a doctor. You might find out that all of this doesn't really interest you, and Grey's Anatomy was just interesting, and you want to be an actor. You know, that might be what you really want to do, right? But in all seriousness, I would, if my biggest advice, and which I think applies to literally everyone in this room, email a local doctor. And I guarantee if you email 10 of them, at least one of them will respond, and you'll have a nice shadowing opportunity set up.
Thank you so much. Ariel, you had your hand raised second. Would you mind asking your question now?
Hi, can you speak to going to med school in Israel? I know that's really specific, but I'm actually really interested in that. I know there were a few programs there. What was your experience, and would you recommend it?
100%. Yeah, I wouldn't change it. I tell people all the time that if Harvard reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to go there for medical school, I would still say no. Again, I can't stress enough that, like, obviously, you know, coming full circle now, almost being a complete attending doctor in the next 2 or 3 years. And, hindsight's obviously 2020, but I was so hyper focused on just the doctor path and nothing else mattering in my life for so long that I really lost sight of like being a human. And I think going to international school, and by the way, I have a lot of friends who went to the Caribbean, which I think is an amazing opportunity. If you're a hard worker, it's a great way to get back into the States and work here. I think everyone who's seriously and legitimately applying to state schools, MD and DO, should apply to the Caribbean. I don't care what people say, oh, they like cut people out. You should do it. You should still do it 100%. It's respected. Some of the best doctors I know went to the Caribbean, went abroad. So do that. That's my side comment. Israel is an amazing country, and there's obviously political views that people have, but just looking at the medicine aside, they practice the same exact medicine as they do in the United States, which is why this whole opportunity was able to be created between the state of New York and Israel, and has existed since, I believe it was like sometime in the 60s. So the medicine is applicable actually across the world. What I've found in kind of my travels and in my discussions with different doctors from around the world is that an American medical degree, whether it be Caribbean degree, whether it be US, whether it be Israel, I think Ireland has one, Britain has one. There's a lot of different like little pocket schools around the world that have US degrees that kind of come back here. So once you complete your residency here, you can really go anywhere else and practice anywhere in the world. It's respected. So we're lucky in that sense. But Israel is a first world country. So you have all the same opportunities that you do in the United States. You have really no complaint. It's a different culture, and it opens your mind up a little bit more to the rest of the world. I think as US, there's another side comment, as US citizens, we kind of think in our own pockets in the US, and like literally every other person that's gone abroad, and they're like, whoa, you gotta go abroad to like experience the world. You really gotta go abroad to experience the world a little bit more. And I think I value and I appreciate other cultures so much more, and I value them as humans, not as other country people anymore. I really don't see country lines anymore, as cheesy as that sounds. And I think that makes you a better doctor. So again, international schools, please consider them. I don't care about this whole, it's not prestigious thing. If you look around, if you really do your research and you go on different hospitals in your area, look up like different wards, like the medicine residency or medicine ward or OB-GYN ward, and you'll look down the list of the faculty and you'll see 30 to 50% of them went to international schools. we make up a huge part of this nation's medical workforce. If you're really considering medicine, you really want to be a doctor, you should be applying.
Do you mind if I ask a quick follow-up question?
Yeah, go for it.
From your experience, do you think your residency options would have been at all if you were going for a residency, especially competitive, not to say med-peds isn't?
So you kind of cut out there. It sounded like the question was, would my options have been better if I went to a US school? Is that correct?
For residencies, yeah. Do you think going to an international school made you a little less competitive for residencies? Not to say med-peds isn't competitive, but say you were trying to go into an especially competitive specialty, would you have been limited?
Let me put it this way. Connections matter, which is super weird. I didn't think it was true, but really connections matter. If you have the hookups, you can really get into any residency. Medical school is a different story where connections don't matter as much from my personal experience and from what I've talked with people, because the vetting process is more formal. But when it comes to residency, beyond the connections, if you're a strong student and you've done some crazy good work, that you've started maybe as an undergrad now or as a high school student that you created in your own town and you've continued. Medical schools love that, by the way, and residencies love that, like longitudinal work that you've continued for years that looks really good. If you have a really good application, you have a really good chance of getting into a really good program. I know two students the year before mine got into Harvard, a Harvard residency out of Sackler. If you go on these match lists, I'm not sure if some of you are aware of match lists. St. George, I know, is like a top school. AUC, I think Ross is one. But there's like 5 or 6 like pretty decent Caribbean medical schools. And I'm just reaching to where my brain is telling me right now. There's probably more. You can see where these people are matching. And you could probably look them up and reach out to them online, on Instagram, on Facebook, whatever, on email, and you can talk to them and ask them about it. But it's very possible. If you're a hard worker, if you're a moderately good student, it's very possible. It's very possible. That's all I can really say. But I will say that prestige only goes so far. Being a good doctor really has nothing to do with prestige. Being a good doctor comes from your values, comes from your mentorship in education and training, and your own investment in your education and training. If you go to Harvard and you're just expecting everyone to teach you, but you're not taking your own initiative to learn and going out and getting your own opportunities and trying to become the best doctor you can be, the guy who went to Timbuktu residency program in the middle of Omaha is going to be a much better doctor than you. And I've had firsthand experience with that, and I've seen that. And I value the teachings that I get from those type of doctors more so than the prestigious ones. So don't feel like you have to get into the hottest, sexiest, best looking residency name ever or medical school ever. It doesn't matter. Once you get into medical school, the battle's halfway done. You get into residency, you get through, you're a doctor, swallow your pride. You're not going into this field for prestige. You're going into it because you want to help people. You want to make a difference. And just remember that, because this field is so driven by prestige. And I've been, a slave to it at some point too, to that thought process. And it's really not healthy. I mean, you really should be in this field for the patients and to better the world, not to do it for your own prestige and to have a nice diploma you can hang up on the wall. Okay. That's all I'll say about that.
That's great advice. Thank you so much. William Lynn, if you would like to go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, so my question is, what things during high school and getting into pre-med and going through after pre-med have really challenged you and really helped you to better yourself through medical school and through helping your patients in the future?
Yeah, that's a good question. I wish I could answer that perfectly to apply to all of you in this room right now. I think the best I can do is just kind of speak about what I did. I'm a type 1 diabetic, and I've been living with it for 16 years. So I was actually a part of a camp, a diabetes camp that I grew up at. And if you look across the country, this is a great volunteer opportunity that is probably local to a lot of you across the country. There's a lot of disease-related camps that you can volunteer at. And I was a member of one as a camper, and I later became a counselor and then a medical staff member, and I was taking care of the kids from a medical perspective. So that kind of longitudinal care, I think, looked really good on my application, but more so, I really wasn't doing it for the application. I actually enjoyed being at this camp because that was a huge part of my life and a huge part of who I was. So I think as high schoolers, you have to really find out what you like. And there's no pressure to find out what you like, but kind of have an idea of what you like and see if you can apply that to your future in medicine or your future in healthcare. So I did that. I was in the band for a while. Not a rock and roll band, I'm not cool, but like the band at school. I played the trumpet, I played that instrument and the French horn for some time. What else did I do? I volunteered at my religious school on the weekends. I played guitar with them and I did some teaching. I think as a high schooler, you don't need to gear yourself to medicine. I think you need to gear yourself to building yourself up as a human and as an academic person and as an intellectual. If you're too like medical driven, I think even some medical schools might be like, well, what else is there to this person? All they care about is medicine. Like there's something missing. So I think it's important to remember that. Again, like if there's any theme to my talk to you guys today, it's that don't forget that you're a human and you can live outside of medicine and that you should live outside of medicine. That's kind of my comment there regarding that. I don't know if you had any like specific questions on maybe something you're considering. I'd be happy to like give you my input, but just kind of, again, just kind of do what you'd like to do and do what you think would make you a better person, a better intellectual and a better academic, and preparing you for being a good college student, not necessarily a doctor.
I love that. Thank you. Forgive me if I botched your name, but Akila, would you like to ask your question?
Hi, yeah, that was right. I was just wondering what a typical day looks like for you as a resident in peds and like having both of them combined. I was just wondering.
Right, yeah. So I'll like describe to you intern year because I think that's a good intro. Essentially what we do is 3 months on and 3 months off of internal medicine and then pediatrics. So in those 3 month chunks, and we do that for the full 4 years, in those 3 month chunks, you're kind of like staying on a certain topic so that you can kind of hone on your skills rather than being scattered and switching between the two. The only time you switch between the two is maybe once every week or so, or 2 weeks, you'll have a clinic session, like an outpatient family practice sort of session where you're going to see adults and kids at the same time. But essentially you wake up probably 5:30 or 6 if you can like really get out of bed quick and get to work. You're gonna potentially eat breakfast. I don't eat breakfast. I don't tell my patients that I don't eat breakfast. I have a coffee. I go in and I get sign out. So during the day there's a team, and then during the night there's a team. This is not just residency. This is how like hospitals work. So I go to the night guy and I go, night guy, tell me what happened. And he goes, well, this guy vomited, so I gave him some of this. This guy had some pain, so I gave him some of this. This guy tried to leave the hospital and we had to go chase him down, but we got him back. And I go, okay, I write it all down. Then I go see the patients and I go check up on them. And I'm doing physical exams. I'm asking them how they're feeling. I'm updating them on, okay, this is what's gonna happen today. This is what's gonna happen tomorrow. This is when I think you're gonna go home. you're gonna go for a procedure, so you're not supposed to eat right now. Let me start some fluids on you. You look a little bit dehydrated. I'm just assessing the patients and keeping them stable for whatever the next step in treatment is. Then the attending comes in around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and we round. So meaning we take our computers and we review patient charts together. We see the patients together and we talk about what we should be doing for the patient. And what we will do for the patient, we call consultants. Okay, his kidneys look messed up. Let's call the nephrologist. He's acting really strange. Let's get a CT of his head, because what if there's something going on? What if there's a stroke going on? We do all those things. We finish rounds, and then we have lunch. And if you don't get lunch at your place, you should complain, because everyone should eat lunch. Coming from a diabetic, everyone should eat lunch. Then we write our notes in the afternoons. We check up on labs, follow up on imaging, follow up with consultants, kind of tidy up the patient. And then by 7 p.m., we sign off to the night guy again. I tell the night guy what happened. This guy left, this guy tried to leave, this guy had a stroke, this guy needs some fluids, he looks dehydrated. And so now the night guy or the night gal is aware of what they need to do or what to look out for. And we say, okay, this person tonight might do this, so just get ready to draw blood cultures because we think that they're septic and they might have an infection brewing. And that's pretty much it. And that's kind of an inpatient schedule, and that varies. That's pretty much the way things flow on every service, peds and adult. Whether it's in the ICU, the MICU, the medical ICU, or the PICU, the pediatric ICU, or the CACU, the cardiology acute care unit, or the ED. Well, actually, the ED is a little bit different. The ED, you're just seeing patients and doing things, and it's crazy. And I only do like 2 weeks of adult patients, and that's it. I don't want any more. That's a whole nother story. If you want to go into ED, you guys are heroes. That's great. It's not for me. And that's pretty much it. And then as far as like outpatient work, it's pretty much kind of like ED work. You're just kind of seeing patients as they roll through and taking care of them right then and there, sending them for labs. And usually you have like a half day or a day every week or so where you kind of do an outpatient day. And then that's going to vary per program.
Thank you very much for explaining that. Next, I invite Khadija to go ahead and answer your question.
Hello. So my question is kind of more personal. It's just, do you think there's any like underrated, for lack of a better term, pre-medical advice you received as an undergraduate? Or was there any like major things from your undergraduate experience that you like particularly remembered or kind of stuck with you throughout?
Like beyond from what I told you guys today, like underrated medical advice. Like, again, like take everything everyone says to you with a grain of salt and really stay informed. All of you guys being a part of this pre-health shadowing thing, I think is great. This like wasn't around, or I wasn't informed enough to know about something great like this when I was around, or rather an undergraduate student. So staying informed, I think, is really important, and knowing what is important, because there's a lot of false and misinformation that goes around. Like we're all like nervous medical students, and like we're like, oh my gosh, like, do we need to do this? Oh, I need to do this. Oh my God. Nothing's like that important. Everything's important, but nothing's like that important, and nothing is the end of the world. I think a lot of people, that's okay. So I'll talk about that. Like nothing is the end of the world. If you get an F on a test, it's not the end of the world. Okay. You can always retake a class. And if your dream medical school in the US won't take you, you can go to the Caribbean, you can go abroad, you can go to a DO school. All these places make great doctors. What I really like about the non-US MD schools is that they give people chances, and they give people second chances. Humans make mistakes, and that's okay. And a lot of you guys are going to make mistakes because you're humans. Like, we're not all perfect. There's going to be a few perfect ones out there, and I'm like really happy for you guys. You guys are going to make like no mistakes. But a lot of us, like me, like have made mistakes, and you're going to need to be forgiven and be able to still say, okay, how can I still be a doctor? So just not to put too much stress on yourselves throughout the whole process is really important. It's okay to be a little anxious and say, oh, you know, the unknowns are there, but to remember that someone like me, who was getting like a pretty bad GPA in my first 2 years, and I picked it up, and I was still having fun, and I still had activities, and I still had a life, and I took off time from school, and I still went to a kind of a US school, and I got into a US residency of moderate prestige. Again, prestige doesn't matter, is all still possible. Just remember that it's all gonna be good. Even if you're not doctors, even if you guys don't end up being doctors, it's all good. There's a lot of non-doctor or similar doctor type positions that you guys can do and still make an impact in people's lives, okay? You don't need those 2 letters behind your name for you to make a difference in people's lives. That doesn't mean, I'm not saying don't keep going for it, but just know that you don't need 2 letters to make a difference in people's lives, okay? I guess that's my advice. That's my advice there. If you have specific questions, I'm happy to answer, but nothing's coming to my mind because it's 10:50 here. I'm not tired, but it's 10:50 p.m. here in New York, and my brain's a little foggy, and I'm coming off night shifts. Keep the questions coming. What else?
Thank you so much for staying up with us. So next we have Dania.
Yes. Hi, I wanted to ask you a personal question.
Okay.
Do you ever regret taking a gap year?
No.
And what would you say was like the most beneficial for you doing that?
Living your life, like being a human being, making a little cash for medical school. Here's something, going back to, was it Akila's question that was last? Wrong information I was given. Most people don't like go straight through high school, straight through undergrad, straight through medical school, and I can't say the word straight right now, and straight through residency. They take gaps in between, and things come up in life, okay? And that's okay. So taking that time off, like, is totally fine. There's people that I know, most of them that went to the USM, medical schools, and let's say even USMD schools, most of them are like 3-4 years older than me. And most of them weren't perfect students undergrad. They took time off and did a post-bac, which is another cool option. I don't think we've talked about post-bacs. They did PhDs, they did MSs and MAs, and they kind of built up their CV and built up their life and built up themselves as humans. And as adults, and they eventually did get into a US school. If that's what your goal is, it's totally possible. And taking a gap year is totally okay. Is it recommended? It depends. It depends what your goals are, and it depends what you want out of your life, and how fast you want to become a doctor or enter the health field.
Thank you so much. I invite Hashir to answer your question next.
Hi, so I want to get more into that part. You mentioned something about networking connections for residency. Usually we're always told that you're always supposed to get a good GPA or a good application to get in these things. Can you talk more about like how connections can help, whether it would be for medical school or residencies, and how you could connect with other people in order to get a better edge on people, or you may say?
Yeah. So what I was talking about with connections is almost like unfair connections, like family connections or family friend connections. That's what I was speaking of. I don't think I don't want you to like hyper focus on having these connections as like a necessity for you to get anywhere. Is it possible to make those connections and have a favorable outcome on where you apply and where you end up? Sure. But is it a necessity? Absolutely not. I had no connections. I probably had negative connections, actually. People were like, who is this guy? You can go and do research. If there's let's say you're in LA and and you're interested, you want to be a neuroscientist. I don't know why you'd want to be a neuroscientist. Oh, okay. Emma and Catherine want to be neuroscientists.
It is one of the most competitive residencies in there. It's about like, I think it was like majority of the students that are taken in is like 1 or 2%. It is competitive to get in. It's fascinating. Sorry.
It is. No, thanks for chiming in. Those are like really tough to get into, and I cannot speak to that because that's some like next level ish that I have no idea about. But I wish you guys the best of luck. And is it totally possible? Yeah, I know some pretty like normal, regular people who are like good, humble, cool people that got into, you know, neurosurgery type residencies, and they're like brilliant, they're going to save the world. So if you were at, somebody's talking about UCLA, neuroscience major. If you're in LA and you want to go into neurosurgery, I'm just using like a random, or orthopedics or ENT or ophthalmology, something like crazy. And you're like, dude, like my grades they're like fine. But like, what can I do? Like, I want to make a connection. Okay. Hashir is the name. He wants to make a connection. I'm going to go on. I'm going to say, okay, well, I'd like to go to a local medical school. I would rather not like go out to like Long Island, New York, because it's like really far, and it is really far. And say, okay, so I'm going to look up neurosurgeons at UCLA. Billy Boopkin is a neurosurgeon at UCLA, and Billy Boopkin is doing some research. Oh, interesting. Okay, he's looking at how rats are losing their smell after getting COVID. Okay, so you're like, okay, all right. So maybe I'm not really interested in that, but maybe I want to make a connection because this guy's got some connection to like the UCLA neurosurgery program. So you could reach out, say, hey, I'm a pre-med student. Hey, I don't know about high school students. I don't know if they should be doing this, but probably like more like pre-med students, undergrad students can reach out and say, hey, could I join your research? I'm really interested. Here's my CV. Even if you have no research experience, you got to start somewhere. And again, keep in mind that like all of these doctors, I don't care if they went to, I keep using the word Harvard because it's like the top school, but again, it doesn't matter. I'm just using it as an example. Even the ones that went there know that like teaching is such a huge part of medicine. And if you haven't done research, like you got to start somewhere. So reach out and say, hey, I'm really interested in research. I'm sure you're very busy. I'd really appreciate it if I could potentially, you know, speak with you about helping out with your research lab. I'm really interested in it. And then boom, he says, yeah, come on in. Or he doesn't respond, in which case you should wait about like 3 to 5 days and send another email. That's a little pro tip. If they don't respond, they're usually just busy. So just like send another. Hey, did you see my last email? So maybe he responds, maybe he doesn't. Okay, he doesn't respond. That's weird. All right. So let me look at his lab page. Oh, that's interesting. There's like there's another guy there who's like looks like he's the PhD student. He's not even an MD. He's just like a PhD student. So you're gonna reach out. Hey, I saw you on the page. I'd love to do some research. I'm a bio major, and I really am interested in neurosurgery. And I don't know why, like it's like a super weird major, but like I'm super into it, okay? And I'm just joking, Catherine. And he goes, oh yeah, like totally, come check it out. PhD students are really nice. Always reach out to the PhD students. And that might be your way in. So that's how you create connections. And I'm just using like a research type example, but just like be human, like the theme of today is like, just be a human, okay? Reach out, email, just talk. Like, don't be afraid. Like, oh, this might like taint my like chances of getting into like, whoa. Just do it. Just send an email, sound nice, have mom and dad or brother or friend like check the email to make sure you sound like sane, and then send it. And they don't respond, you send another. Hey, did you see my last email? They don't respond. Who cares? Look up another lab, maybe another neurosurgery lab in like USC. There's a few schools in LA, right? The options are there. You have to create and make your options. That's the thing. And it's not hard. I think like we're all like, the human race is like the race of like procrastination. And like, we're like, oh, like, it's a lot of work. Like, I don't know if I want to do it. Like, oh, like there's like Grey's Anatomy's on tonight and it's like a big episode. Just do it. Just like do it. Just like 5 seconds and do it. That's it. I'm such a motivational speaker today. I don't know what's gotten into me. It's all this coffee I'm drinking, I think.
Honestly, same. Finish my cup though.
Coffee is your best friend. Get very acquainted with coffee, everyone. Just start early.
Yeah, I suggest Cuban coffee. Okay, Ruth Ann, would you like to ask your question?
Hi, yeah, thank you. I just wanted to ask about the residency program. What are the usual hours for residency, and how much control do you have in choosing your shifts?
Oh, okay, here, we'll do a nice polling question. Thank you, Nina. Nina's on it. You go, girl. Wow. She's got these polling questions set up. Great questions. Who wrote these? What a brilliant guy. Wow. Did we get it back? Let's see. 40 to 70. Ooh, 40 is really like, that's really, really low balling it. Get ready to work like 5 or 6 days a week. I hear like some programs like ophthalmology, they work like 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. I'm like, that's crazy. I've never heard of that. That's like when you're like an attending in normal fields, if you're lucky. I think most residents, at least I can speak to Stony Brook, and like in parts of Israel where I was working, where like normal residents are, you're working like 12 hours a day, at least like 10 to 12 hours a day, like 6 days a week. So if you want to do the math, that's like at least like 72 hours a week, okay? Or 70, all right? So you're there a lot of the day. And that's why I say it's so important that you got to love what you're doing. So going back to the shadowing, do shadowing in what you want to do it in to see if you're willing to do like 70 hours to 80 hours a week of that. I love it. Like I actually hated it and I almost quit my intern year because it was like so much and I was like so tired and there was like so much I didn't know. But you have to get comfortable with not knowing too. There's so many stepping stones in like your medical career and medical life where you're just, every time you get to a new stone, you're like not going to know anything and it's going to be like so stressful and you just have to get used to that. But the best jump starts you can get are right now. Like turn off Netflix and like go email somebody right after this meeting. It's like, what time is it? If some of you are in California right now, so it's like 8 o'clock. You guys can email. I think 8 o'clock's fine. You could probably email somebody like probably up to like 9. Probably better to do like 6 or 7, but like it's probably fine. So just create the opportunities for yourself. I'm totally off the main question. The main question is 12 hours a day. If you're working in a clinic, I'm getting excited, Nina, don't laugh at me. If you're in a clinic, maybe you'll work like, I think I work like 8 to 5. And like, even then I'm there 10 minutes early and I'm there like 20 minutes late. So it's like, someone do the math. What is that? Like 9.5 hours. So you're there for a long day. And when you're a real doctor too, like there's going to be long days. Cause like, if you look at like medical scheduling, you're there for like 20 to 30 minutes per like patient, but it like a lot of times it takes longer than that. And sometimes if you're really lucky, it takes shorter and the person's like, oh, dude, I just needed like a Benadryl prescription because I have allergies. And like, that was it. But usually it's not. Usually there's like always like, oh, I have this like growth on my knee. Can you take a look at that? Like, oh, I got this rash on my elbow. So this is going to be your life. So make sure you love it. Get exposed to it now. Okay. Just like, I'm not sure who asked that. Who asked that question? Who was that?
Ruth Ann.
Who?
Me, Ruth Ann.
Ruth Ann. You were probably like hoping to ask that question and me to be like, oh, like, yeah, like you can like make your own hours. Like, no, there's like no hours making. And now during COVID, oh my God, it's loco in the cabeza, man. It's like constantly, and you get like read ups. They're like, here's a day out. They're like, just kidding. No, there's like 8 people called out because they have COVID. So like, you're working now. And you got to be like, okay, I love it. I love to work. Let's work. And then I chug like 3 gallons of coffee and I like go to town. So just get ready. It's going to be your life. And that's okay. Because the camaraderie and the family feeling at the hospital is like so insane and like unmatched. It's so great. But it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be good. And it's all very doable. Okay. Take one day at a time. And by that, I mean, schedule 3 weeks in advance and then take it one day at a time because you've already pre-scheduled it. Okay. You see how I'm going back and I'm taking like knowledge from before and applying it now. More questions?
Thank you.
Sure, of course.
Thank you. The next question is for Ari to ask.
Hi, my question is, how did you study or memorize during medical school? Or at least, like what was the best tip, or what is the best tip you have for studying and memorizing?
I think a good tip, usually in medical school, when you come in, the year before will like pass on what their books are. And I think like they do that in undergrad too, in like some of the hard classes where you need that organization set up for you. But I would say, one, limit your resources. If you can get all of the information you need to get a B, you really only need like a C. Like I think for most medical schools, like a 65 or a 70 is passing, and like get used to that. Like smarty pants out there, like that's all you need to pass, and like nobody cares about grades and like grades don't matter. Just like pass. You know they say P equals MD, pass equals MD. Okay, let's see some people smile. Maybe they didn't hear that one before. So make sure to, I'm losing my train of thought now. Make sure to keep your resources very limited, only like 2 or 3 books. I think I had first aid, pathoma, for those of you, I don't know if some of you are in medical school, first aid, pathoma, and then I occasionally tried other books too, but like really you need like 2 books first year, and then you could do like UWorld, like a question bank. And I think that applies to like most science fields. Is like you really only need 1 textbook. They create textbooks for classes. So once you have that textbook, every single word in that textbook does not need to be known. Okay, you don't need to see the word the like 15 times or like and. Highlight what you need to know, because you're gonna, guess what? You're gonna read that book once, but you're gonna go back and read it again, and then you're gonna read it again. So you need to make sure that you're marking the first time through what you think is important or what's not already in your head. If you already know that ants are a very small insect, don't highlight that. Don't read that again. That's already in your brain, right? Highlight the new material that you think you're not going to be able to pick up. And then if you want to be like next level, you have a little notepad of things that you think there's like no way in heck that you're going to remember. And you have this little notepad that like when you're going to the bathroom or like when you're sitting on the bus, you just like whip out your notepad and you just review it and you kind of cycle it into your brain. And there's going to be a lot of things that I recommend, not a lot, but a decent amount of things I recommend that you don't necessarily read until like a week or 2 before your test. And then you just like get it in your head before the test, because it's going to go right out. As hard as you want to study, it's going to go right out. Like the citric acid cycle. Like you guys know the citric acid cycle. Some of you are thinking like, oh, I thought I was supposed to know that forever. Like, no, that thing like leaves. And the Krebs cycle, that does not stay. And glycolysis, I don't even know what's ATP. Like, I don't even know what that is. So you need to prioritize your learning in that sense. That's kind of my general rule. What I learned in medical school was there's like Picmonic. Have you guys heard of Picmonic? And Sketchy, using pictures to describe like a thought. So like, for example, if I wanted to remember that rhinovirus causes a runny nose, I might draw a rhino with a really big horn to remind myself that it causes like nasal symptoms. So I would recommend you guys look up Picmonic. Picmonic is like so cool. I figured that out way too late in the game, and like I barely even use it now. They have like a free 3-day trial. You can see what I'm talking about. Sketchy Micro. This is for more like medical school, but I'm sure Picmonic has some like Krebs cycle, citric acid cycle memory stuff. Those two are really good. And they have that for pharmacology, for microbiology, parasitology, virology, everything. Use these Picmonics. So that's kind of like in summary what I would recommend. Before I forget too, I think Nina or whoever runs the Instagram dropped my my Instagram handle. You guys, please feel free to reach out on Instagram after this and like ask me questions. There's a lot of times where I am bored. I'm gonna jinx myself and get like 10 admissions tomorrow. But there's a lot of times I am sitting bored at the hospital and I'm just like scrolling through Instagram looking at memes. And like I should probably be like making more of a difference in the world like I'm preaching to you guys. So reach out and DM me and I'll try to answer your messages. I think I'll be able to get to all of them. I'm not like Dr. Mike and I'm gonna have like a million people message me. So please reach out, okay?
Thank you so much. We will definitely put your in the chat. So right now we're going to take a pause from getting the hands raised. We will come back to it after this one question. It was just a repeated question that you guys have been asking in the chat. So can you tell us about your most interesting case?
Oh my I wish you guys would have like prepped me for this, because now I'm gonna have to like pull out like a most interesting case. Oh my gosh. I don't know. Let's come back to that question. Let's come back, because I can't think of, again, and now it's like 11:10. My like brain's like fried. So it's still running as a resident. It still runs, but it runs really slowly at this hour. So let me think about it, and we'll come back to that one. Nina, remind me, yeah. Nina's my boss tonight. She's gonna remind me of all the things we need to do. She's running the show tonight.
Alrighty, no problem. We will definitely come back to that question though. Gabriel, you are next in the hands raised. Please ask your question.
Hey, I was having a bit of a more boring question, but one that I feel like people don't talk about much. But more you mentioned tutoring, and I wanted to talk more about the financial side of affording medical school and paying for medical school and loans and stuff like that, and how you have managed to get through it, or what your plan is, or what other people have mentored you in that area.
Right. All right. So thanks for the question. There's no boring questions and there's no stupid questions. There's just more boring and more stupid. No, just kidding. Tutoring is a great way to make cash. If you can get a tutoring job, you make like bank. Now, I was lucky enough that my parents helped me get through undergrad, so I can't speak to that. But there is this amazing system, as amazing as our country is at the moment, with federal loans. And that's something that I think everyone can apply for the most part. I am up to my head in loans, and that's okay. Because as doctors, thankfully in this country, we get paid very well and we get compensated very well, and you can pay it off over 40 years, like $10 a month, or you can, well, it's not that cheap, but really low in comparison to your salary, or you can pay it off in 5 years and give them like a quarter to a third of your salary every year. So that would be my recommendation from all the research that I've done, is to get out a loan. I would do federal loans. I would stick away from the credit card type loans, because those, even though I think they're fixed rate, but they can change. I would stick to I'm not remembering exactly. Again, you're quizzing me on things that I didn't prep on, but I would stick to federal loans. If you go to, now I'm like working for the US government. If you go to like fedloanservicing.com, or just type in like US like education loans, there's a lot of info, and they like really dumb it down for people like me, to where you can kind of get a gist of what's going on. And then go on YouTube. And YouTube's also great for studying, by the way. If you can literally not get anything in like a concept in, go on YouTube. YouTube's it's everything to me. So there's probably a great video on like type in like how to pick a loan, and go to the one with like the biggest views, and I'm sure you'll find something. But I would recommend that you stay away from working if you can, unless you're one of those naturally smart people, because I wouldn't want to give you advice that would potentially ruin your GPA, or ruin your chances at getting the best grade possible. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you for that great explanation. I invite Anne to ask your question next.
Okay, so I actually have two questions, right? So number one, as for shadowing, I do know that some doctors pass on their shadowers to their residents, right? So I was wondering whether you're willing to take on any pre-med students in the NYC region under your wing anytime soon as a resident. And number two, how do you handle burnout in your everyday life?
Yes, I'm 100% willing to take on people to shadow, but unfortunately my residency program does not allow it. So usually in like big systems, like in New York, we have Northwell, we have Mount Sinai systems. I think in California, I remember there's like Sutter Health, there's Kaiser. Usually in those big systems, people who are learners still like me they don't let necessarily do teaching unless it's set up with an attending physician. So I, again, would reach out to the attending physicians because if they can't do it, they might be able to set you up. And I think that's what happened in one of my cases. They actually set me up with another person, another doctor. And then the second question, what was it?
Sorry, it was how you handle burnout in your everyday life.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Everyone tells me to meditate. I must be look really stressed or something. During times of stress, I've used this app called Headspace, which is insane. Like when I'm stressed enough, it's so helpful. Headspace, I'm sure you guys have all heard of it. We've all got those ads on Instagram. That's a really good thing. And I think it's free for the most part. You also have betterhelp.com, which is okay, so I'm going to extreme, but ways to handle stress are, again, I think from a basic standpoint, before I go on to therapy, is to, again, set up a schedule about what you're going to do for the next 3 weeks. And I'm not just talking about, about work-wise and study-wise and school-wise and activities-wise. I'm talking about you're going to literally set aside on your schedule, on your iCal, from 7 to 9, I'm just going to sit and sleep because I need to sleep. Or from 7 to 9, I'm just going to go on YouTube and chill. To prevent burnout, you need to not be burning out all the time. Sometimes you need to put the candle out and let it chill and let that wick chill for a second. Great metaphor. Wow. That was a terrible metaphor, but you guys get what I'm saying. Okay, so that being said, you have to kind of proactively prevent burnout. And as a med student, that's really tough because you're constantly working. But just going back to what I'm saying, you really have to take time and have a little bit of you time, whether that's going out with friends or staying the heck away from friends because you just need to chill at home and do your thing. You really just need to do that to start out. Now, in response, I hope that a lot of you or most of you have support groups or somebody that you can speak to, whether it's family, friends, because those are almost a necessity going through school, especially through this medical career path. I think it's so important to have somebody to speak to because there's going to be a lot of low points, and I wish there would be none for any of you, but potentially there are going to be a lot of low points where you're going to need some support to keep going or keep moving forward. That's the second thing. Third thing, Headspace, great app. Fourspace, if you do need a therapist or you need to talk or have a third party person that's not your mom saying, you need to be a doctor or right? You need somebody who's a third party that you can just kind of talk it out with, who's not a friend or not someone who knows you. See a therapist, please see a therapist. Usually your school has free therapy sessions that you can do or someone to just talk to. If you're suffering, this is turning into a PSA now, but if you are suffering or really struggling, please call somebody to ask for help and get through what you're getting through. Going through the medical career path is not worth the stress killing you for your whole life. There's more to life. So reach out to a great therapist. BetterHelp.com is an awesome, and this is not a paid sponsorship. BetterHelp.com is a great site. And they have really good payment plans that can cater to your financial needs and whatnot. And you can talk to the person from anywhere at any point in time. So if you're having a terrible day, tomorrow, let's say, and I hope you don't, but let's say tomorrow you're having a terrible day and you're freaking out, you can log on to BetterHelp and within minutes, see somebody right there and then. And it might not even cost you anything. I think they have a lot of things where the first few sessions are free. So please get help and don't do it alone because it's way too much to do alone. Okay.
Thank you. So, Roseanne, would you like to ask your question?
Hi, yes. So I have two questions. So the first one is if you can speak about your perspective about post-bac programs and how they increase someone's chance of getting into medical school, more specifically making up for a GPA that wasn't competitive in undergrad. And then my second question is about for someone who's like passionate about a specific specialty, for example, neurology or neurosurgery, and then they don't get matched with it their 4th year, is there an option for them to pursue that career even though they didn't get matched?
Great questions. Great questions. So the first question was, remind me again, exactly the first question.
It was about post-bac programs and
so post-bac in particular, not just any grad program. You're just talking about post-bac?
Yes. Okay.
I didn't do a post-bac. I know people who did, and I know that some of them ended up at schools and programs, and that's great. Now, what I think would be better than a post-bac, which but I think if you could find like meaning in some other sort of graduate program that could attribute or contribute to your science GPA, assuming that that's what's the kind of the low point, I think that would be better. Like getting an MFT or rather an MA or an MS, Master of Arts, Master of Sciences, whatever, in a field that might look a little bit better. Because the post-bac, I think it shows your commitment, but I think it's almost just like, oh, you're just doing this to like get into medical school. Do I think it helps? Yeah, I mean, I think it can in some cases. Again, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt too, because I didn't do a post-bac. But I almost think like, if you're gonna be paying like 40 to 60K to do a post-bac program just to get into medical school, and your GPA is already on the lower end, you're kind of taking a risk with 60K. You're kind of like going to the casino and throwing out 60K and hoping you turn out and get 2 aces, you know what I mean? So at that point, again, I would consider, international program, a DO program, who tends to be more forgiving in those respects. Those doctors are equally respected, can do literally the same things, and can go into literally any field. But going into those tough programs, now going to your second question, if you don't match, so let's say now you've gotten into medical school from your post-bac or from, you chose international school. Now, getting into those schools, you've done. But getting into a residency, let's say you're applying for neurosurgery, ophthalmology, ENT, orthopedics, those can be really tough. I know people from international schools that get into those things, that get into those difficult career options. You can check out these match lists. Please check out these match lists and reach out to these people and be like, yo, like, what did you do? How did you get in? How did you like overcome, these barriers and get into that orthopedics program? That's going to be your best bet there. If you don't match, and there's a lot of people every year who don't match, it's not the end of the world. And that's a very difficult thing. And I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. That still can come back and apply again and get into that field. And if they don't want to do that field in particular, they can do another field, maybe a less competitive specialty. But just realize that once you apply into a very difficult specialty and you don't match, I believe that stays on your application, and it can definitely make it more difficult for you to get into a program, because whether or not it was because of it was competitive, some programs might see that as, oh, there must be something wrong with this patient that we're missing, or with this applicant that we're missing. Maybe we shouldn't, if we have this guy who's got the same, or the gal who's got the same kind of like background and applicant information, why wouldn't we just take them over this guy or gal who we don't know why they didn't match? So if you don't match, keep trying. I know a friend of mine who's doing neurosurgery or trying to get into neurosurgery, and he's now in his like 2nd or 3rd year off. He's just doing research. Research is a really good way to get your foot in the door somewhere, and try to build some sort of relationship or rapport with a doctor that could potentially help you out. When it comes to those really tough specialties, it's more like the wild, wild west. And it's a lot of networking, because it's a small like career sphere anyway. So networking kind of makes more sense given that it's a small group of people. Okay.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we only have time for one more question. So Karina, can you go ahead and ask your question?
Hi. Okay, so I'm a high schooler, and I'm trying to gain as much exposure as I can in hospitals and in the medical field. And I was wondering, like, when you were a high schooler, did you shadow or like assist in research labs, or did you start all of that in college?
Yeah, thanks, Karina. Yeah, I mean that's a pretty bold thing to do, I think, as a high schooler. I don't know if you were tuned in earlier, but as a high schooler, I don't think it's necessary that you do specifically medical stuff or research as a high schooler. If you have an interest in it, like please do that and like start making your difference in the world and positive change in the world as a high schooler. If you don't have an interest in that, don't do that. If you have an interest in just like hanging out with kids, go volunteer at a camp. If you have an interest in like musical instruments, like go bring musical instruments to the local, like mentally challenged center nearby and work with them. Something else that doesn't have to necessarily be medical. I think undergrad college is really looking for just volunteer aspects of your application in general, longitudinal, hopefully a longer time period, a good GPA, and just kind of a well-rounded applicant who they think is going to be an academic and an intellectual at their institution that's going to contribute something, potentially not just to their institution, but to the world. Really only after in college, I would recommend jumping into research and all that. Because that might also add to your burnout too. If you're already like doing like 6 AP classes and you're like tiring out, I wouldn't add a whole research project on top of that, because that's a whole nother learning curve and whole nother thing to be doing that might take a toll on your mental health.
Thank you so much. Everyone who still has questions, feel free to reach out. We did drop his at in the little chat with his Instagram at. Do you have any last minute advice for us?
Yeah, I mean, I think I talked my head off this whole time. I really appreciate you, all of you coming through and listening to me. I'm really glad to see that all of you are interested in the career field of healthcare and potentially doctoring. Keep going for what you're going for. There's going to be a lot of lows, and make sure you have that support. Make sure you stay sane and stay happy. It can be a really stressful field, and either keep going and get a good support group to get through it, or really think about if this is the right field for you, because there's so much more out there that you can also contribute to the world and create positive change. And I wish you guys all the best of luck. And again, thanks so much for listening.
Great. Thank you again for being a part of our pre-health journey. I want to have all of my students, I'm going to go over how to take the post-shadowing assessment at the end of this presentation, so stick around. We also do have some opportunities for you, so definitely keep an ear out for those. Right now, I just want to give you all a moment to look at these different reflection questions and really think about why you have made it here today. Kind of keep this in mind. We've heard from a lot of past speakers, what is your why? Why do you want to go into medicine? Why do you want to do what you're doing? And so, after each of these amazing virtual shadowing sessions that we have, write it down. You're going to be writing your personal statements soon, and this is going to be a really big help. Kind of compile all of the certificates that you're getting from these virtual shadowing sessions. Keep them all in one space, stay organized. And so if you guys are looking to get published, we do have opportunities for you. You can submit publications such as articles, reflections, reviews, and success stories to our website. Our editor-in-chief will go over them and reach out to you with revisions if necessary. And so this is a great opportunity for you to grow not only as a student, but as a writer, as a person who is going to be potentially published on our website. So if you're interested, the link is below, prehealthshadowing.com/blog submissions. This is only accessible through this URL. It's not available on our website yet. And so this is an exclusive opportunity for our live session viewers only. So if you're interested, go ahead and check that out. We do have a mentorship networking opportunity. So if you're interested in potentially gaining that important bond that will help you throughout your journey, This is how you're going to register for that. It's by invitation only. So you can gain an invitation by filling up your bingo board. You can fill up your bingo board by posting on social media, sending it to family and friends via email, however it works. Once you're done, you're going to submit your bingo board through a form. And that's how you reserve your spot. You will then get an RSVP invite, and you can send in your interest, and that'll help us match you with your 2 professionals that you get to see for each day of the event. And so if you guys are interested in participating, go ahead and download the materials. You can find this on our website. If you look up prehealthshadowing.com/mentorshipbingo1. So if you're interested, definitely check that out. The bingo board will be open until January 31st. So you have until the end of the month to get this done. Be sure to tag us in your posts at PreHealthShadowing on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter. And use the hashtag PreHealthShadowing for the opportunity to get reposted. You can talk about one key takeaway that you got from the session today. I know there was a bunch, but what was your favorite? We'd love to hear about it. Alrighty, just to let you all know, PreHealth Shadowing is a nonprofit student-led organization. We were created in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. It was a group of students who really were facing the same problems that thousands of students across the world are currently facing, and that is just a lack of resources during the COVID-19 pandemic. We are looking to apply for these careers that are going to not only drain our bank accounts and make us take out loans, but also, commit us to a life of stress. And so is this worth it? We don't know. The only way we can find out is by shadowing doctors, and one of the few ways that we can do this is virtually. And so please help keep this program alive. We open this up to anyone who is interested for absolutely no cost. And so we're helping to fight inequity in health education, as this is a free program, and to promote diversity in the various fields. And so please just send this. If you're in the live session today, please do your part. I ask you to please send this to 5 different people, family that support your education, friends that want to see you thrive. Anything really works. We appreciate anything you guys can do. If you do join our fundraising team, you are eligible to receive volunteering hours for this. And so I'll talk about that very shortly. We do have leadership opportunities. These are 100% remote. Give you the opportunity to meet with like-minded students, connect with professionals, lead a team of students, come up with your own projects. Something that's really cool that Dr. Grossman touched on was, having your own ideas and really getting to form that and lead your projects. Pre-health shadowing does foster a wonderful community for that. We do take project proposals and give you the opportunity to be the leader of your own project, and get other students to start working with you in your group. That can not only be across the US, but across the world. We do have students that are joining us from Canada, India. In our live sessions, we have students from Puerto Rico, Korea. So it's really awesome to kind of make these connections that might have been impossible without this global pandemic. So finding a good out of this bad. We understand you guys are all pre-health students, and time is not something that you just have in your pocket. So if you want to help out and get involved, but can't really commit right now, we do have volunteering opportunities that are very flexible. You can actually work on your own schedule from home for as many or as little hours as you want. If the only time you have is at 2 in the morning, we welcome you to help us at 2 in the morning. So you get to do student outreach as well as professional nominations. If you're interested, you can sign up on our website. We have some upcoming shadowing sessions. Our week is packed with different health professionals, actually from various fields. So join us for the rest of this week as we explore the possibilities of healthcare. You can sign up on our website, prehealthshadowing.com. And finally, to get your certificate that verifies your virtual shadowing hours today, you're going to go to our website and find Dr. Grossman's page on our site. Once you find, you're going to see his picture. To the right of his picture, there's going to be a free Take This Course button. Once you start that, you're going to have 30 minutes and 2 tries to get above a 70% on the post-shadowing assessment. Not meant to be difficult. If you were paying attention and taking good notes throughout this entire virtual shadowing session, you should be slam dunk. Once you pass with a 70% or higher, you must click Finish Course. If you do not click finish course, you will not be receiving your certificate. This is a crucial step. Please ensure you have done so. If you guys experience any issues or have any questions about this, feel free to reach out to us at info@prehealthshadowing.com. We have been having a lot of students join us. We are about to hit 15,000 students in our program. So thank you guys for joining us on our journey. Please space out when you are taking the quiz. We do not want our website to crash and currently don't have an extra $7,000 to give to our website hosting people. So unless you guys can help us out with some really quick funding, please space out your quiz so it doesn't crash and so that you don't lose your opportunity to get your certificate. Without further ado, I just want to thank you all for joining me today, and I hope to see you tomorrow at our next virtual shadowing session. Have a lovely night, and this concludes our virtual shadowing session. I invite you to disconnect.